All right, so we got my tea here, and I am ready to share all of the tea on my birth story. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah, and I create motherhood content, and I will be posting a video every single week. I can't wait to have more moms in this community, and it would mean so much if you would subscribe. So let's get into it. So, to back up, I wanted to go unmedicated from the start. I had more other friends that had gone unmedicated. They really highly recommended it. And I've always had like this holistic mindset. So when the option came, I knew immediately that was what I would try to do at least. I knew I'd keep Epidural on the table, but we would see what would happen. So May 4th comes, and this is 2024. I currently have a 9-month old. And I had started feeling these little tightening feelings that I kind of laughed off. My husband and I had gone to Publix to get pub subs. If you're a Floridian, you know. And I was laughing because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having Braxton Hicks for the first time. Laughing because I was honestly just so stoked to meet baby girl. Uh, and he was like, oh, really? Okay. And after we got back, I went ahead and took the dog out on a walk. I was just kind of feeling antsy. I think my body knew what was about to go down. And I did some curb walking mixed in because at this point I was exactly 39 weeks. And I was like, okay, I can get this thing started. So I ended up walking the dog for maybe like 40 minutes. And I think I had like 2 to 3 contractions at that, like um, during that walk, but I didn't think too much of it. Uh, I ended up after eating and everything, taking a bath because I was like, let me go and relax, just chill out, just in case this could be anything. I don't really know. But after that bath, I was like, hold up, these tightening feelings are kind of like consistent, and I decided I would time them. So I got the little contraction timer app out on my phone, and literally within like 3 to 4 contractions, it was like, get ready to go to the hospital. You have time for a light meal and a shower. I was like, oh shoot, I haven't even finished packing my hospital bag. So I immediately went and packed up my hospital bag. And then I went into my husband's office while he was playing some games. And I was like, hey, I think you should, I think I asked him, why don't you pack your hospital bag tonight? And he was like, oh, can it wait till tomorrow? And I was kind of already walking out of the office. So I think I just chuckled and was like, maybe. But anyway, the contractions did not ease up. That little notification about like get ready to go to the hospital came back multiple times, and I at this point was confirmed that okay, yes, like I am in labor. I'm confident in that. So I was just trying to keep calm. I finished packing up everything. I ended up showering too because I was like, I don't know when the next time I'm gonna get a shower is. And then I threw my hair in braids because I was like, great hairstyle for labor and everything. Um, and I ended up laying in bed. And around this time, my husband came to bed. So this was about 11 p.m. at night. And I was like, hey, I think you should pack your hospital bag. And he gave me that look like what? Because originally I wasn't going to really tell him I was in labor unless I needed to, just because I wanted to wait as long as possible to go to the hospital. But at this point, he knew that I was in labor. He packed his hospital bag. He asked me if I needed to pack it or if he needed to pack his work bag. And I was like, it could wait. Shouldn't have said that. He did need to pack it. But he got in bed, and literally not even 5 minutes afterwards, I was like, I can't get comfortable. I'm just going to go in the living room. And I'm sure he was like, how am I going to sleep? But he did end up falling asleep. And I just labored out in the living room. I was on my yoga ball doing the little hip circles. And I was listening to worship music, just trying to really like get in my like Zen state or whatever you want to call it. And I did this until about, I would say 12:30, I think it was at night. I ended up calling the hospital and being like, hey, do you think I should come in? Because I'm a first time mom here. And the nurse kind of turned it on me and she was like, do you think you should come in? And I told her, like, I think I can hold off a little bit longer. Well, that call ended, and little did I know, I couldn't hold off a little longer. I think about 30 minutes passed, and I was like, no, like, this is getting too uncomfortable. Like, I'm going to wake up Jacob and we're going to go to the hospital. So around, I think it was 1 or 2 in the morning, I got Jacob to drive me over to the hospital. And at this point, it was getting to where like I was struggling to talk and like when I had these contractions. So I knew it was like picking up quite a bit. Um, I was still breathing, those like low sounds during the deep breaths. And little tip for any first time moms, make sure you know where you're going as far as the birth suites, because we drove to the wrong spot and that was not fun. But we finally made it. And when they checked me in, it was basically like empty. There was no one there that I saw. But by the time they checked me, I was actually already 6 to 7 centimeters dilated, which, if you don't know, that's active labor. So I was so proud of myself for making it that far, laboring at home up until that point. And once we got to the hospital and I was, experiencing all the things, it was getting incredibly painful, but I was still keeping my cool. Uh, I would say about an hour to 2 hours later, this is probably, I'd say 4 a.m. Um, they had asked me if I wanted to get checked again. I think I might have pushed it off once, but I was honestly curious. So I was like, yeah, you can check me again. And they said that I was at an 8 at this point, and they asked if I wanted them to break my water. And I told them no, like I'd really like it to break naturally if possible. So they're like, okay, no problem. But fast forward to half an hour to an hour later, they're like, hey, do you want us to break your water? Are you sure? Just double checking. And I could kind of get the feeling, I got the vibe that they were just trying to like speed me along, but I was like very adamant. I was like, no, like I'm good. Like I don't need to, or I was like, I'd like it to happen naturally if possible. And I did bring in a birth plan, if you're wondering, to the hospital, but it was super simple. It was one page. And one of the things I mentioned in the birth plan was that I didn't want to be coached when I was pushing. I had seen a ton of other birth vlogs that had like the count to 10, hold your breath, and push. And the counting just drove me crazy. So I put that, please don't coach me, blah, blah, blah. And by this point, probably around 5:30 a.m., my body was pushing on its own. And so the doctor had made their way in, and she had checked me again, and she was like, "You're at a I think you're at a 10, but your water bag is bulging, so I really can't tell without like risking breaking it." And I'm very glad that she respected that. But then a little bit later, my body was actually like pushing on its own. And at this point, I was very vocal. I did not anticipate that. I'm not gonna lie. I roared that baby out, if I'm being honest. But um, it got to a point where the doctor was like, "Okay, we're gonna have to break your water." And at that point, I was like, I had accepted my fate. I was like, okay. And I kid you not, seconds later, I had a contraction and my water popped, or my water broke. It literally was like the movies with and the sound of waters like just gushing. Uh, and I think like I'll probably never forget that moment. But it broke on its own. One detail I think I forgot to mention, when I was about 8 centimeters, or no, right before the doctor had checked me and said I was almost at a 10. Um, Oh, right before the doctor said I was almost at a 10, um, I was talking to the nurse, or she was talking to me, and I literally cut her off mid sentence and was like, I'm gonna throw up. And she like immediately was like looking for bags. And I kid you not, within seconds, she handed me the bag and I just threw up in the bag. And that's actually a sign of transition, which I was kind of encouraged by because I was like, okay, I knew it was coming relatively soon. And then it also helped. It was super encouraging because I saw that on the little whiteboard that they put like the baby's details and stuff. It said baby's birthday May 5th. And so I was like, okay, they think baby's coming today. Like, we're good. Um, but anyway, back to I was at 10, I was pushing. Um, they said that they would have to actually coach me a little bit with the pushing because baby's heart rate had been dropping. It was the classic, cord around the neck. If you don't know much about it, I definitely look into that. Super common, not really, anything huge to be concerned about. But because of that, they coached me. They told me, oh, hold your breath while you're pushing. And I think that was the reason I did end up having a second-degree tear. Um, and that hurt. That was extremely painful. I did not anticipate that. But baby, I pushed her out in about 30 minutes. She was healthy. I just remember warm, wet, heavy when they placed her on top of me. And I think my first words after, I think, were, this is so weird, because Jacob had asked me, like, how does it feel? And that was just a funny thing. Um, but yes, our Anya Ray was born at 6:02 a.m., 6 pounds, 12 ounces. And we were so thrilled. We still are. We have a 9-month-old now. I'm a little late to filming this, but I knew I always wanted to share because I was so encouraged by other people's birth stories. So if you're striving to go for an unmedicated birth, here's your encouragement to do so, or at least attempt to if it sounds like something that you want to do. Overall, it went 95% the way I wanted it to go. The 5% that didn't go the way I wanted it to um, was that about an hour after birth, I had a hep lock in, but they had actually connected me to something. And an hour after was when I realized, and I asked the nurse, hey, like, what is this? And she was like, oh, they gave you Pitocin after you gave birth to help with the uterus contractions. And I looked at her straight in the face and I was like, I did not consent to that. She's like, oh, well, we can take it out. And that was the one thing that kind of, got me a little upset. But other than that, it was completely unmedicated. And I didn't anticipate, honestly, the pain after birth because I thought, ring of fire, worst part, and yes, but the fundal checks where they press on your uterus really hurt. The stitches that they stitch you up after if you tear, those really hurt. And what was the other thing? Oh, the afterbirth contractions, those kind of hurt too. But honestly, it was so worth it. And we're just so, so grateful that our baby's here. And I hope this encouraged you today. Thank you so much for watching, and it would mean so much to me if you would subscribe to my channel. Thanks.